What up? How's everybody doing out there?
Great.
We're doing good, aren't we?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Us too. Anyway, hey, we got something special for you today. If you don't know Alundas Havens, you should. He is the host of The Winning Paradigm. Alundas, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. Thank you guys for letting me on. I appreciate you guys.
Good. Hey, I want to know where everybody can find you. Let's just do it now and go.
Absolutely. So the best way you can find me is my podcast, The Winner's Paradigm. It's going to be on thewinnersparadigm.com. That's the easiest way to find me. And then from there, all social media platforms, either The Winner's Paradigm, Facebook, Alundas Havens, we could definitely connect.
And let me ask, who are the people that you're really trying to connect with the most right now?
Absolutely. So I connect with alpha entrepreneurs who are either at the beginning of their journey or they're trying to figure it out. So that's where the whole recalibrate your mindset comes into it. It's really challenging your beliefs because regardless, what you believe, you're going to challenge it. So you got to challenge those beliefs, whatever spectrum you're on, whatever background you come from, so you can be able to figure out those tools. You can be able to align yourself with your definition of success.
So basically, you're giving people permission to create action.
Absolutely.
And then you're fine tuning.
That's exactly it, brother. And those are the conversations I like to have, is be vulnerable as men, because, there's the macho stigma and we got to be this. And it's like, that's not how life is. You know what I mean? We got to be able to break it down or talk to the wealthy people and say, hey, what are things you do for mindset? And it's just one of those that allows us to get to that point.
Nice. So what does the winning paradigm mean?
Yes. So the winner's paradigm is all about what winners do to be able to win. So it's really, flipping the script, taking that action, it's figuring out, hey, how do I win? How do I take this loss? How do I add up these little daily wins? Or how do I be present in the moment? So yes, I can become successful, but then I can have fulfillment. I can be the dad. I can be the husband I want to be. I can be able to, face the trauma I have, because sometimes we suppress it as men, and then we're like, oh, develop a drinking problem slowly. So for me, it's like, been there, done that. Now I'm helping other people to kind of show them the ropes.
Hey, let's just talk about you being a dad, because we have sound effects going on right now.
I just want
to address it, that you work from home, you're a stay-at-home dad, you take care of your daughter, she's out there screaming and having a good time.
Running a business.
And I think that's just important for everybody to understand. We
Absolutely.
love that she's talking in the background. And anybody listening, he's at home, he's a dad, and that's the sound effects we're going to get today. So it's wonderful. We're happy about it.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. I lost my train of thought. Where you go for it?
Squirrel.
Yeah.
Pterodactyl. Here we go. Now you talked about recalibrating the mindset.
Yes.
I really want to try and get a little more specific, because it was a quick answer, but some people might be sitting there like myself going, okay, recalibrate the mindset. How would I, as a 50-year-old man, sit there and recalibrate my mindset? Because, somebody like me is a little stuck in their ways, and, go from there.
That's a great representation. And thank you for being able to share that, brother. So for me, I used to be abused a lot as a kid. And one of the things I do is I'm real reactive on the way I respond, or, certain things I overanalyze situations. And it's great because, yes, it kept me alive. I'm able to read situations. I can read people. Bad thing is, if I go over my head and I make assumptions, or I'm at that stage where I'm not feeling comfortable, it could be a problem. So for me, it was really looking at that and saying that. I also have parents that are narcissistic and they're, still in their ways. My dad's 47 and I have a daughter. He has one right after me. And it's one of those where it's like, he can't grow up. He still wants to be the party guy and do that, and I looked at it for myself and I'm like, I don't want to. When I turned 21, we got in an argument. He said, you've never dealt with any adversity in your life. And I'm like, man, do you know who you're talking to? And it was one of those, like, we get in a shouting match. And it was just really, do I want to live my life like this? Do I want to keep doing this? Even my mom today, we still get into things. Yesterday, we got in an argument and I was like, at this time, we're no longer talking. So it's really working on yourself and saying, hey, I got to be the best I can be, but doing that hard work. And for me, it's like learning those things, or learning that I do get ultra competitive. And it's one of those, it was like the fear of not losing, but the fear of not being enough, or, had some friends that died. And I was wondering why I kept pushing so hard. And it's like, well, it's the fear that my friends aren't here and I'm going to lose somebody. So I don't want to build that relationship. But two, I want to make sure that I can get to where I want to be. Exactly.
I'm gonna Gary V, I just heard him say something yesterday, actually, and he was talking about when you talk about the things that you do and your ideas, and are you afraid that somebody's going to steal your idea and run off with it? And he said 99.99% of people won't do anything, so it doesn't matter. How do we change that? How do we change getting people to actually do rather than conceive an idea and do nothing?
Boom. And I'm going to go with this: core values. So when I actually started my business with my business partner, first conversation we had was core values. And why, I make mine in a corrective action plan. And the way I do it is like steps I can take every day. So I look myself in the mirror, that's true to self-reflection. I'm journaling and I'm putting on paper, what I'm thinking. So like I got to argue with my mom last night and I'm like, why did I get upset? Well, probably because I felt disrespected. She's lying, saying things, I had to make a correction, so it's having that tough discussion with myself, because sometimes what we don't want to do. Transparency, because if I'm telling you guys this, and it goes with my number 4, which is accountability, I got to be able to hold myself to that standard. I got to be able to talk it with you guys. I don't want to say one thing and say, hey, I'm done drinking heavy. And then you see me out here just chugging 10 beers one day. It's going to be one of those. If it's social, yeah, I'll have a couple, but I have priorities. I got the little one that wakes up at 6 a.m. and I got to be up with her. And then last one I have is learning and application, because we can get this knowledge. We can have the conversations. We can watch Gary Vee, but if you don't take any action, if you don't build that plan, if you don't say, hey, maybe I'm struggling. So in my case, I was working a sales job, working 60 to 80 hours, and my nanny moves to Minnesota, and I'm like making sales calls with the baby. And the first thing they do is, hey, is your heart still in it? And then I get upset. I'm like, why is that the first thing you say if I'm one of your top reps?
Yeah.
First thing you say is that, I'm out, so I go to the mentor, or we create the business. And that was something for me. You got to take action.
Yeah. That's a question that I wanted to ask next. Who is your mentor / influencer?
Yes. So it is, his name is Zach Babcock. His podcast is Underdog Empowerment. He's been in the game for some time, and he actually just had an event last week called Alpha Underdog Empowerment, which was pretty awesome, being around a lot of other podcasters who've been in the game for a minute. And then it was all, 6-figure entrepreneurs and above. So we were learning just so much. And then we even had another guy, Callie, we add to our team, which he's like the consultant, because he's worked with all the big companies out there. And guy's a genius. And he comes over here and he's like, hey, this is what we can do for our plan, and this is how we can make it better. And I'm listening to him and I'm like, man, you're a genius. I would have never thought of this. So it was one of those like pretty cool, being in the room. But now I'm at the point where like I educated myself a little bit. So when they're talking, I'm not just looking at the walls anymore. I'm like, all right, I get half of what they're talking about.
No, I get it. That brings up one of my favorite sayings, and it's from Yogi Berra. And it's, if you do what you always do, you'll always do what you've done. Make yourself better today and every day here on forward. So, I mean, that kind of encompasses that for me. It's like, oh, that's my saying. That's perfect. Excuse my hands, by the way, they go flying all over the place. This poor guy.
I'm the same way, brother.
Oh man. But I'm glad that you brought that up, because I really like the focus that you brought to it. What do you do well?
Good question. So I'm gonna give an example first. So actually, on my way to St. Louis, and this is one of the things that like I've always struggled with. I'm not good, being a crafter. I can't work on cars, like all these can'ts that stop me from it. But what I'm really passionate about is talking to people and, getting to know them on a personal level. So I'm on this airplane sitting, and I'm in the middle seat. So I'm a bigger guy. So I'm like, I hate this, and I'm talking to this older gentleman who's a grandfather, and he's giving me his perspective. And then this girl on the left side of me, she has these alarms. So she had like 3 alarms go off. I look at her, I'm like, hey, you do that too? And from there, we start talking about time blocking. And then she's like, you should check out this podcast. But before we know it, we're talking about it. She's opening up to me. I'm opening up to her. A couple of tears are shed. And it's like, she's like, man, I've never talked to somebody like this, and went on that. So what I'm good at is really like getting people to open up, but I'm sharing my story as well. And I'm like, man, I've been there. I've been there where you're contemplating and you're like, well, I don't know what my purpose is on earth. I'm not good at anything. I can't do anything right. All these people keep telling me that. And the school system, for me, I was a class clown bouncing off the walls, and I have ADHD, and it's just I can't focus. So when I go home, I'm like doing something, and then I'm doing something else, but I can get my work done. And it was one for me. It's like that at one point in time, I was labeled as something and I was believing it, but that was actually my superpower, to now where it's like, all right, I'm working on this task for 2 hours. I'm on to the next thing, or putting the baby to play, and then I'm doing something. And in this case, she's supposed to be taking a nap. So that's why it's funny. She's yelling.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I have that effect on kids, let me tell you. So what do you think you need work on?
Putting the baby to play.
Truth.
Good one. So for me, what I'm working on right now is being present in the moment. Because I'm one of those, you're flying a million miles per hour. We're getting the business done. We're reading. We're doing all this. We're trying to make sure we're there for the wife. And it's like, well, one thing's falling short, and it's not being present in the moment. It's looking at the phone. It's not giving a care, So for me, I put my phone on airplane mode. And I'm like, all right. So like tomorrow night, I specifically scheduled a dinner with wife. And I'm like, that's it. My phone's going to be off during that time period. So I can be able to be present in the moment, ask her good questions. That's also it. Asking better questions, instead of saying like, how was your day? Be like, tell me one thing that made you smile today. And it's like, man, now you're putting work to that. So for me, it's like that 2-part. I'll be the one like, oh, how was your day? Good. Okay, well, that doesn't get us anywhere. But if you say like, tell me what was one thing, or what's our greatest strength, you're giving them that open-ended question to be able to answer it. And that also makes you better in podcasting, because that's what we need to do with other people sometimes.
Yeah. All right, now the big one. What would you do differently?
Ooh, I would say I would have just started networking sooner. I'm an introvert, so I use that BS excuse, and I told myself, oh, I'm an introvert, and I kind of selectively did things, and then I blew up my podcast. It's funny, as I closed it when I started the business, and I'm like, I'm intentional who I'm talking to, and then I thought about it, and I'm like, well, if I'm trying to help these people, and I'm trying to get to the root of knowing people and sharing these things to help people out, why would I only want to go to one select group? So I blew my podcast up. And then from there, I'm able to have it scheduled out all the way until March of next year, which really next year I'm dropping 2 episodes a week. So I could have strung it to August with the drop, but it was something where like, once I started doing it, it started aligning, and started having better conversations. I have the better energy, had a lady where I was like, we rescheduled on each other 3 times. And I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be a good one. It comes out she's a therapist. So she's asking me all these questions. And I'm like, hey, I'm the one asking you questions on my show.
We've been there.
Yeah, we've been there. I have. Oh, man.
Let me you are very action oriented. So very small goals attacked every single day. So I'm going to throw you a knuckleball. What's your belief on dreaming? What on having a dream to go after, and then how do you parse that down? Because you attack things on a regular, easy, like faster basis.
Absolutely.
What's your coaching and teaching on actually going after a dream?
So I would say one that's huge is like doing the vision board. So like I need to redo my vision board. Why? Because I bought a house, but now I want some land. I want to be able to shoot guns freely, ride quads, take the family around.
Yeah.
Have some grass so I can be able to put my feet on it and connect with the earth and meditate, you know what I mean? Because that's one of the things that's calmed me down. So for me, it's, having that dream, but at the same time, like for me, I wanted to do the podcast. I talked to a couple people, they're like, that's stupid. Why would you want to start a podcast? And then in my head, I'm like, well, they're not doing what I want to do. So why am I listening to them? So it was pursuing it. So if you have that dream and you're committed to making it happen, it's going to suck along the way. You're going to hit that wall. You're going to hit that. Like for me, it was like, man, I don't have money. What I got to do? I got to figure it out, So you got to do what you need to do to make the dream happen, but always, find that one thing every single day you can do to lead you to there. And even now it's like, yeah, I'm opening those doors up and it's pretty crazy for me. But at the same time, it's one of those where it's like, you just got to commit to that dream, that goal, and then just keep doing it, stack those wins every day. You're not going to be an expert right away. That's cool. 10,000 hours, they say, well, then take your 10,000 hours, put a little bit here, do this. And eventually you're going to be a lot closer than you were. Like Elon Musk says, if you were to just try 100 times on your goal, you're gonna be 100 times closer than if you didn't even try at all. And it's true, because you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. It's hard. Like for me, it was like, I'm never going to be able to be in the room with these people. And then I'm in the room with them. I'm making everybody laugh. And I'm like, you know what? This is life-changing for me, because I never thought that. I struggled with people. I didn't know how to communicate. I had all these doubts of myself. And then it's like, nah, people are like, we love your story. We love the way you communicate. You get people to open up. You're fun. We love your energy. And I'm like, you know how hard it is to be able to manifest that energy, or to be in the room with the right people, because some people are going to be like, that's stupid, or why would you want to start a business? That's crazy. And then it's just like, for me, it's like, well, I don't have this conversation, so I check out, So being around the right people is also what leads you to that, because when you surround yourself with that team, kind of like I told you guys I went to that event. I have 6 people there that I actually met for the first time, and I will do anything for those people. And on a regular basis, they contact me more than anybody I grew up with, besides like 2 of my best friends. And they'll be like, hey, do you need anything? Just want to say I love you, man. You know, hey, how's your day going? Or hey, what was one thing that made you laugh today? And it's like, that's cool. You know what I mean? And I met these people on the internet.
That's
Right.
cool. That is totally cool. I like it. Keeping those positive influences around you.
Absolutely.
You know,
I like it.
there's another direction I want to go, and it definitely fits with your profile and your bio. Sarah Blakely started Spanx Billionaire, and I was listening to her talk, and she was talking about at the dinner table, because you mentioned at the dinner table that her dad always asked, what did you fail at today?
Oh, that's really good.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, because it was like those were wins. Like,
Yeah.
there were learning lessons to grow and achieve. And I always taught my kids when they fell down, how you stand up was more important. You know, that's what people will see, is how you stood up after that failure.
That's awesome.
What are your biggest points about overcoming that failure, or the fear of, which is what fear of false evidence appearing real, like all those things? This is what you really teach. Give me some of the juice that you have from that.
So that I'm the same, you know, like Gary Vee says he loves to fail. Yeah, there's a song in the beginning of the intro, Gary Vee starts saying that, and I hope my businesses fail so I can prove all you guys wrong. And for me, you know, for a long time it was like proving people wrong, but it's not effective, because you're going to get to that point where you're wasting too much energy, you know. So for me, I take failure as kind of a learning point. So real quick sharing, I was at a mortgage brokerage. I'm working crazy hours, you know, putting in extra work every day, and it's straight, or excuse me, it was minimum wage plus commissions, which it was okay, you know what I mean, but it wasn't where we wanted to be financially. And I'm studying for my test. I failed my test 3 times. I'm working on my business management degree, so I'm writing these papers that I don't care for, but I said I'm going to do it, so I'm doing it. And me and the wife have our second miscarriage, and it just taxed on me. And it was like, bro, you're a failure. You suck. You're not doing this. I started doubting myself on sales, you know, and I was just like, why am I not doing well anymore? Well, I wasn't aligned with it, you know. And it was one thing, like, I've done all these things, and it's like, man, you've done all this. A normal person can't do that. A normal person is going to give excuses. So for me, it was acknowledging it, being like, hey, you've done this. And that's kind of what we have to do with failure, is like accept what we have done, accept what we haven't, right? You're a lot closer than you think. You just got to keep putting those steps in. It's the little things that matter, you know. It's really, for instance, like putting the business together. My partner's a genius at writing offers, and I put 5 offers together, and then he's like, nope, that's not going to be it. What do you want to do for the name? And I'm like, oh, 6-figure entrepreneur. No, we're not doing that. Because what do you do when you get a 7-figure entrepreneur? You change the name. And I'm like, yeah. It's like, no, we're not rebranding. It's going to take too much work. And that was something like ego, you know, hits in, and I'm like, man. And then it was like, you know what? He is right, because he's done it and he's there. But 2, I was able to see that, you know, for my case, it wasn't failures. It was essentially small wins. You know, you're learning it. So kind of like that. Sarah Blakely talking about it at the table, that's huge, because you're already instilling that in your kids a lot younger. So when they have that adversity, all you got to do is just coach them up a little bit. Hey, you got this. You know what I mean? Well, what's one thing we can do better? You know, what's one thing we can strive for? Or what's one thing today you can practice on, so tomorrow you can be a little bit better. And then in 2 months, you're going to be a lot further than you are now. And that's kind of what we need to do there. Because even getting in the room, like I talked about Callie Keen, first time I interviewed him, I was confused, and he was talking, and I was just like, man, this dude is way too smart for me. I have no clue what he's talking about. He's talking about systems, operations, how to land these 8-figure, 7-figure contracts. And I'm like, man, I've never done this. So he's talking, and I'm just like sitting there recording, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't it. But what did I do? You know, I went, started reading, started educating myself, had more conversations, watched YouTube videos, and then was able to teach other people and replicate that and be like, hey, this is what I've learned. Hey, this is a story where I started blanking out, and I was really confused in that interview. And then it was like, I put the work in. So now when we have conversations, I'm somewhat more knowledgeable. I'm not on his level, but I can at least, you know, have an intelligent conversation with him than before, where I'm like touching surface level.
Right. Man.
That's so much gold in this
Wow.
interview. It's amazing.
Oh God, yeah.
We tackled some big things. You got anything else? I think we're
Man,
good. I mean, we're at time, but
I'm great. Wow, I'm blown away right now.
You're incredible. I love what you
Thank you,
put out.
guys.
The energy is amazing.
Oh yeah.
And I just hope people reach out, look into the things that you offer, and reach out and look deeper into how they can be helped by you. So
Yeah. And don't forget, folks, we got all that. We're going to have all that information down
Oh, yeah.
below. So please check it out. This is great.
Right on.
Alundas Havens, great job. And thank you.
Thank you guys. It's been an honor being able to come on and speak.
Definitely. From all of us here at What Up with Rob and Chris, have a great day and a better tomorrow. What up?